Recording in progress.
Welcome to our Sunday evening community briefing. I have my one of my children right here trying to get on camera and if you have little ones and it is past their bedtime, I hope they're in bed. But if they are not past their bedtime or they are not in bed, I hope that they are feeling happy and good behavior. Um, all right. Yeah, welcome to my home. It's good to probably be in many of your homes again on the Sunday evening. We have a lovely briefing tonight, and to both check in on the status of ice in Minnesota from across our state, and to dive into No Kings 3 coming up here on the 28th. It's a big event nationwide, and we are the main event here in Minnesota. So please check in the chat. Thanks for getting us started. For some of you, let us know where you're zooming in from. Say hello. Good to have you all on with us this evening. Glad to have you all. And I am going to, as usual, have a Spanish language channel. And so I'm going to invite Jorge to come on to give instructions for folks who would like to join that channel. Go ahead, Jorge.
Yes, hello. Thank you. As Elian said, this is Jorge with Accurate Languages. I will be providing a Spanish interpretation for today's session. For the Spanish, please select the Spanish channel from the menu below. Y hola, ¿qué tal? Soy Jorge con Accurate Languages. Estaré proporcionando la interpretación al español para la sesión de hoy. Para el audio de español, por favor seleccione el canal de español en el menú que aparece abajo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thanks, Jorge. Okay. Yeah, very good to be with you all today. And I just want to share a small thing I'm reflecting on as we open up this call and as we dive in. Many of us have been tracking and hearing the news, and the sharing of her story from Dolores Huerta, and that is hard news to get. And there's many times and spaces to dive into it. The thing that I want to offer into this space as we think about the work to get ICE out of Minnesota and ICE out of everywhere, is the incredible role women and mothers, and have played in leading this movement, leading this moment. And my family is from Lebanon, and many of you may be tracking um, the true horrors happening in Lebanon right now. And one of my sharpest memories, from being in war myself there in 2006, was my aunt sitting on a on the porch with me as the mountainsides lit up with bombs, and there's a lot of destruction happening all around us. And she looked at me and she said, "We will rebuild." And I hold that moment so close and dear to my heart. And so as we continue to face horrible things in our world, some things that feel somewhat old as time and some things that feel new, uh, I just hold so close to me the women who have held it down and who have built, and who have rebuilt, and do that in service of us all in a better future. And so as we open up this conversation and this briefing tonight, I wanted to open up and hold space, to honor and appreciate all the incredible women, the mamas and grandmas, the tetas, the abuelas and madres, who are holding it down all across our world, and holding our families and our communities together with fierce love and support and commitment. So I invite you to think about somebody, a mother or a mother figure, a woman, who like inspires you in this moment, to keep going and keep building. Um, Okay, and we are going to open with song, and so I'm really excited. I am very proud to be in relationship and in an organization that has an incredible base of musicians and performers called Teacup Twin Cities United Performers, and a performer that's connected to that organizing is joining us tonight. And so I'm going to pass it over to Splash to kick us off with some music.
Hello, hello. Talk to me in my sleep. Let somniloquy bring you to me. On my knees, begging please, with so many things are so unclear to me. So let me linger in this dream. It is a part of me, and I will wake up in due course. So let me stay here and enjoy this lasting reverie. While wheels of time grind on perforce. So just point me north. And where was I before today? I have forgotten what it is I'm fighting for. Or what keeps drawing me back here? An armistice from holy war. To learn to wake up in this dream, it is the art I seek. We can finally have our way. So let me break illusions, walls, and face reality. We can finally have our say. So just point the way. Talk to me in your sleep. Promise me my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I will be back. I've sealed my fate. Thanks, y'all. I got one more song I'm gonna play for you before the meeting. That one is a new one. This one that I'm gonna play is on my album, which you can find at the link tree that was shared. This this one is a song that I wrote for activists and organizers and people like y'all. I'm not playing that song today, but I did also write a song that appeared on a compilation called Thaw with a bunch of other teacup artists. That's a benefit album to help mutual aid organizations from people who have been disproportionately affected by the ICE presence in Minnesota. So I did just want to throw that out there. That's also on the link tree, Thaw. There's a lot of great artists on there, and I have a song on there today that you can check out. This is When the Well Runs Dry. My patience is slipping, I can't see no helping hand. Hand still firmly gripping, I won't follow your commands. You can see what little I've left, dripping tears fill my eyes. But where are we gonna be when the well runs dry? All of the years that I spent thinking all the time was mine. When your days seem infinite, it's easy to put off trying. But now I see the bottom and the end I can't deny. But where are we gonna be when the well runs dry? Your shoes be on your feet when the wolf is at your door. Will you take things to the street, or will you lay down on the floor? And I know that things look bleak, but you know I've gotta try. Or where are we gonna be when the well runs dry? Hours I spent thinking you knew what's best for me. Looking back, I disbelieve my own naivety. Now your system's quickly crumbling and we all refuse to cry. But where are we gonna be when the well runs dry? Will your shoes be on your feet when the wolf is at your door? Will you take things to the street, or will you lay down on the floor? And I know that things look bleak, but you know I've gotta try. Or where are we gonna be when the well runs dry? Oh, tell me, what am I gonna see when I close my eyes? Honey, where are we gonna be? when the well runs dry. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for all the reactions and the kind words in the chat. I'll be back at the end.
Thank you.
Well, I'll be here, but I'll play more songs.
Yes, thank you, Splash. That's so beautiful, so moving, and yeah, glad to have you at the end to close us out. All right. So let's dive into the state of affairs in Minnesota. And to kick us off, I'm going to invite Jack on, who's organizing in neighborhoods, to give us an update on neighborhood-based organizing in Minneapolis and maybe a little bit broader than that. But I'll let Jack say more about the state of things from their perspective. Take it away, Jack.
Hi. The way that Kat framed it to me was specifically about rapid response. But
That sounds
if I were
perfect.
okay, I was just gonna say if I was to talk about neighborhood organizing, it would be more than that. Like top of mind right now is rent fund and like hoping that people are not getting evicted in April. Which is a whole other conversation. But yeah, my name is Jack. I am a South Minneapolis resident, and I was invited to talk about rapid response commuting specifically. To give a little history, I have been doing that since December 2nd, which is technically the second day of Operation Metro Surge. It was like the morning that we were waking up to messages of people having been kidnapped the afternoon and evening prior, and us just like realizing that there was a scale shift from immigration enforcement we had already been seeing since earlier in 2025, and especially after a couple of raids in St. Paul that happened on November 18th and November 25th. So I have had the opportunity to kind of see the formation of the rapid response networks forming since the beginning, and been a part of that, and figuring out like those methods, and also more recently seeing how some of it is scaling back. There was kind of a more and more hyper local chats as it was needed, and especially in January, and now some of those are folding back into each other as there is less movement here now. And I also was pretty involved in commuting out of the Whipple Federal Building back in December. The first day I did that was on December 9th. And that looked a lot different before Renee Good was killed. So there's been kind of an interesting evolution of that. And after Renee was killed, a lot more people became involved in everything, became more aware of everything. And the Whipple building became more of like a flashpoint for protest and organizing, and less of an effective place for intel gathering and for following ICE. Speaking of children, I have my puppy here, so we're keeping her entertained while I'm doing this. And that has had like an interesting cycle that we're coming back around kind of as the official operation here has ended, and there is less activity. There still is a lot of ICE activity, and I'll get into that in a second as well. The Whipple building is becoming more of a focal point of organizing again. So I will get into that more in a second, but that's just a little bit of history. Something else that I have become involved in, me and a few other dispatchers from Southside Rapid Response have formed a group called the Southside Cowboys. And we are experienced Southside commuters who have formed relationships in different parts of the suburbs, and especially like mid-February onwards, the suburbs and the exurbs and rural as well is where we were seeing more immigration activity. And suburb dispatchers and admins were asking for more commuters to come out because they just never have enough commuters. So we formed this group of Southsiders who have relationships with the suburbs and who want to facilitate commuters getting out to the suburbs more to help with coverage out there. So that has been an interesting project. It really started piloting in more of a formal way during the Melt the Ice, Bring the Heat, Melt the Ice week of action, where we tried a few different methods of getting people to Dakota County, to Scott County, to the North Burbs. And it's really heavily reliant on relationship building because it requires a lot of trust to have people come into your community and help in that way. So that's been an interesting project that is ongoing. And there's a lot of overlap there as well, because personally, the reason that I became familiar with Dakota County is because I was commuting out of Whipple, and often if ICE is going south of Whipple, they go into Dakota County. And so throughout December, that was happening a lot, same with Scott County. So it's also helpful for people who are commuting out of Whipple to have relationships with the daily calls and the commuting calls, the patrol calls in the suburbs, because then you can alert, relay the information, and also switch to the correct call if you get out into a particular area. So what has commuting looked like lately? What does ICE activity look like lately? People who are at Whipple, and also according to the ACLU from a couple weeks ago, we think that there is about 600 agents still operating. I went commuting out of Whipple last weekend and followed 3 ICE vehicles for like over a half hour each. And yeah, you can definitely get out there and keep following ICE if you want to. It's the long and the short of it. And still their behavior is more recently like more covert, but very telltale driving behavior. If they realize that you're following them from Whipple, they get very angry. They drive very aggressively. So that's kind of how it's always been. And yeah, there's just this general like framework that is helpful for me, that what the federal government right now is doing is trying to make the new normal a higher level of enforcement everywhere. And so here is an example, like, oh, the operation is over. Yeah, we're not occupied at a scale that we were in January. We can feel that. Like if you live in South Minneapolis, it's not how it was in January, where you like couldn't get to work without running into ICE, even if you didn't want to, like as a white person. So we're not at that level, obviously, but we are still at a much higher enforcement level than we were before. And it's kind of like a gaslighting thing with the government, that it's like, oh, it's back to normal. And in fact, we're not. And going back to normal is not enough either. Like we want to abolish ICE. So that's kind of like the larger framework for our organizing now, and recognizing that this is happening nationally. And something that I'm thinking about a lot is, how can we raise the mass consciousness of the border industrial complex and recognize what is happening without a particular city having to get to such an occupied scale for that to happen? Because that's what we've seen in Chicago. That's what we saw here, that it took being occupied at such a scale, and in our case, people being murdered, for this mass movement to reach the level that it did. And I think like a question organizers should be asking now is, how can we make that happen without getting to that scale first? How can we raise up that mass consciousness in other cities, and especially in cities that are already at a higher level of enforcement, like Phoenix, LA, El Paso, just because of their proximity to the border? Like, how can we do that now? Is something I'm thinking about a lot. Sorry, my puppy is really not liking that I'm talking to all of you guys instead of paying attention to her. Give me 1 second. Rudy, come here. Okay. And yeah, some things I would close with, because this is going faster than I thought. Things to think about now, keeping the watch up here. I think that we are, as a community, more plugged in and aware of an immigration enforcement than we were before, and we probably always will be, and that's great. It's horrible why it got to that point, but it's good. But we have to keep that up, watching out for our neighbors. Think about how we can raise the consciousness nationally, sorry. And an important note to end on is the Prairieland Defenders case, how it's important to what's going on here. It's very obvious that it's a show trial to give legal precedent for saying that people organizing against immigration enforcement are terrorists. are domestic terrorists, and that is fascism, and it's not okay. And so the trial that's happening now with those defendants in Texas, we have to show a lot of solidarity, mass national solidarity, that we know what's really happening and that it is not okay. There's been a national call for solidarity actions on April 4th. There is a group of people, one of me and a few friends are organizing a solidarity letter writing session at the Seward Cafe in South Minneapolis on Saturday, April 4th from 5 to 8. So I invite that. Someone said, what is the trial in Texas? Really quickly, that there is a group of people who organized a noise demonstration outside of a detention center in Texas on July 4th of 2025. In September, I believe it was September 22nd, there was an executive order that Antifa is a terrorist organization, according to the government, despite no description of where Antifa is located, like who are Antifa, it's ridiculous. And then 10 days later, I think it was 19 total of these people who were participating in the noise demo were served charges for different things related to terrorism. And last Friday, 9 of them received different kinds of verdicts related to that, despite the fact that only one person did something violent, and 2 of the people who were served verdicts were not even physically present at the noise demo, but they were found materially supporting terrorists or harboring, I forget what the exact language is, but like terrorist documents, and they were just zines that they had. And so we're seeing the government trying to set this precedent, and then we see how it relates very clearly to organizing here in Minnesota. In early December, I believe it was December 4th, there was a different executive order that specifically said that anti-ICE organizing is domestic terrorism, as well as gender ideology, and other ridiculous things. And then, as many people on this call probably know, at least 28 people were served different charges in January for their anti-ICE organizing here in Minnesota. So there's a through line, and we just have to be aware of what's happening and try to have a little bit of control over that narrative and show mass solidarity. I think I'm over my time, so thank you for having me.
Jack, I have a follow-up question, 2 follow-up questions for you. My first, just on that last piece, I really appreciate you like sort of laying out the bigger picture of the sort of the different sort of strands that we're seeing the authoritarian regime build against people for exerting our First Amendment rights, and doing our best to take care of our neighbors. And also everything you said is scary. Like that's scary. And I'm curious, but you're so clear on it, and you're continuing to organize. And so I'm curious, like, why do you keep going in the face of that? And why do you think it's important that others join you?
That's a great question. I haven't always been contained, I guess. There have been moments in December and January where I was scared. I was arrested in December and it was scary. I was held at the Whipple building. It was scary. I think everyone probably had some hard moments throughout January. Like that was just a hard month for all of us. So I think I'm here partially because of my community and a lot of people who are on this call, people I admire. But also, when I was arrested, when people our neighbors were being murdered, like my reaction was never that I was going to stop. It was always like, okay, we got to keep going. And I feel like that has been a universal feeling in Minneapolis and in St. Paul. And I mean, we see that too. People got more and more plugged in after Renee and Alex were killed. So, I don't know. There's something that's stronger than fear, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel that, Jack, and I feel like, I think a lot, and this sort of gets me is like the goal, there's lots of goals of all that, but I feel like one of the primary goals is to scare us into being small and scared and to stay home. And if we do that, they win. And over again, people like you and our neighbors keep saying no and choosing each other and choosing to be public and choosing to show up. And it's all of us doing the right thing in the face of true horror and true threat. Yeah, and that's how we keep winning. And that's how we keep on taking care of each other, you know, and living in the world that we want to live in. My other quick question for you, just to go maybe all the way back, but sort of, yeah, how people are also taking care of each other. Sort of like, oh, if you were going to ask me to talk about this, I would have talked about the neighborhood organizing around evictions and keeping people in their homes. So I would be, and then also Splash in the openings, in the opening was talking about the thaw record that all proceeds are going into some of the mutual aid infrastructure. And so just curious if there is anything you wanted to make sure folks were tracking in terms of the
Yeah.
organizing to keep people in their homes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crisis. It's felt frustrating that our governor and our mayor, or I shouldn't say our, because I know there's people all over the state on this call, but Jacob Fry, and House Republicans, it still feels like we're at the point of trying to convince them that it's a crisis. It is beyond a crisis. Like, I live in a small neighborhood in South Minneapolis, and I've been helping organize the rent fund. And the need for April is bigger than March, and March's need was bigger than February. And that was what people predicted, and it is the case. And the material effects of this operation in so many levels are devastating. So that, if people don't know that, I think a lot of people in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities, are feeling that. And that there have been pushes both at the city level of Minneapolis and at the state level for like extending the eviction notice timeline, trying to get more rent relief, and they have been stopped. And so I think like a combination of continuing to organize with your neighbors to make sure that they don't get evicted, but also demanding actual just a response and action from our leaders, because this is a direct result of something that our federal government did to us. It wasn't even a natural disaster, which like the government, the state should also support in times like that, but especially when it was like violence that was done to us from our government, like we need support. So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate you coming on and sharing all that and a little bit more. And we'll let you get back to that dog. Seems like she needs a lot of attention. My daughter went to bed. Maybe your dog needs to go to bed.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. All right. We're gonna keep getting an update on the state of things in Minnesota. I mean, also, like Jack said, there's estimates 600 agents still here. To put that in some perspective, before the surge, I believe we were under 100. So you know that is a lot more, by magnitudes of order, more agents on the ground here, and they're still out there doing terrible things and breaking up our neighborhoods and terrorizing our neighbors and stealing our neighbors. And the threats from the federal government continue to target communities. And one community that's really been targeted and that we've heard a lot from in these briefing calls is the Somali community. And so wanted to get an update on sort of how things are feeling in the community, especially as Ramadan is coming to an end. The TPS orders are on pause. I don't know if that's the correct language, but just wanted to hear a little bit more about what it's looking like in that community. And so joining us tonight to share an update is Malaika, and I will pass it to Malaika to give us an update.
Thank you, early on. I too have some kiddos up. They are starting spring break, and it's Eid, which is a celebration, the feast celebration that concludes, that comes at the end of Ramadan. So there's a lot going on in my house. I apologize in advance. But I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about TPS ending for the Somali community. And what is TPS, right? It's a temporary protected status, which allows individuals from countries that are experiencing conflict or instability to live and work legally in the United States. And that's on a temporary basis. They are completely legal. And TPS has allowed Somalis fleeing the civil war, the conflict, the instability to live and work legally in the United States for decades. So that was scheduled to end, those protections were scheduled to end on March 17th of this year, 2026. But a federal court has since temporarily blocked that termination, which means the temporary protections remain in place, keywords being for now. So the situation is ongoing. It's subject to change depending on, the legal outcomes. But so you want to know who's affected. Many Somalis who live in the U.S. are U.S. citizens. We are permanent residents or green card holders, or we came through the refugee and asylum pathways. So, but with that said, there's an estimated 700 to about 2,700 Somalis across the U.S. that are here on TPS. These families have been here for decades, raised families here, contributed to the economy under these protections. So, what does this impact look like for Somalis? It's uncertain. I mean, we are consistently seeing this government attack and dehumanize and call our communities names. And now a huge segment of us is risking losing the protections that they had in which, they were able to contribute to the economy and raise their families and all of that. So families are unsure of how long they'll be able to remain here to work legally, specifically mixed status families. They live in fear of deportation, and so fear of family separation is real. Employers are unsure as to what's going to happen, and local economies face, further disruption because Somali businesses have already, and a lot of immigrant businesses here in the Twin Cities have been suffering in the state entirely, but specifically it's hit hard the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, and the ripple effects are still ongoing. I mean, Ramadan is a time where Muslims are in community and they go out after sunset and eat together in frequent restaurants and cafes, and the mosques are full. And this Ramadan, we just have not seen that. And that is that ripple effect is showing across not just immigrant-owned businesses, but the economy in general. And community organizations are responding to increased legal and social service needs because there's just a lot of fear and uncertainty. So what would this mean if TPS ends? Loss of work authorization, loss of protection from deportation, the increased risk of family separation. Many TPS holders work in essential industries. And another industry that's recently come under attack is the trucking industry. A lot of Somalis work in trucking, and without valid immigration status, they risk losing the ability to renew their CDL driver's license, even if they have years of experience and clean records. So as CDLs expire, drivers who once worked legally are now pushed out of the workforce entirely. And this is not only destabilizes, the families in our community that I just talked about, but this further disrupts the critical supply chains that rely heavily on immigrant labor. So what are our communities doing now? They are seeking legal guidance and exploring alternative immigration pathways like asylum and family-based options, etc. They are monitoring the court decisions closely, and they're trying to mobilize so they can garner, support from communities outside of the Somali community. But the bottom line is, this is not just an immigration policy issue. It's a humanitarian issue. We've seen our sisters and brothers from other countries, Haitians, Venezuelans, kind of get swept up in similar policies, disrupting the economy, disrupting families, long-term U.S. residents, kids that have been born and raised here who are now in their 20s and 30s. So this uncertainty is real, and while the federal judge has temporarily blocked this termination, um, the fear and the economic impact and instability for the Somali families across the country, especially in our state of Minnesota, where the Somali community is deeply rooted, is very real.
Thanks for that update, Malika. Terrible news. And I mean, yeah, the good news in there is that the federal judge blocked it, and really hear what you're saying around for now. And yeah, and like it's blocked, but everyone's still living with a lot of uncertainty, and that's stressful and scary, and sort of continues to feed so much fear and anxiety. And just heartbreaking to hear the impact on families in the Somali community, and the breaking of much of the joy in Ramadan, and now during Eid. And yeah, I'm curious. I don't even know if this is a fair question. So if it's not, you can say like, I don't know, that's not fair. But is there anything you would recommend folks who want to act in solidarity with Somali families now, or in sort of preparation for if and when this does come through, begin to think about or can do now, or any guidance as folks are like, what can people do? Yeah, it's a question.
I mean, we're just preparing for, what's to come. As far as if you are an immigration lawyer, we desperately need immigration attorneys to help a lot of these families navigate this new reality. Rapid response. These are people who had jobs and are paying their rent, and all of that, and now they face economic uncertainty. So we will need the community to step up and show up in terms of rapid response as far as rent and things like that. And I mean, it's just a lot of navigating a new reality. I was speaking to a family who the breadwinner is a trucker. And his wife was like, it just feels like I'm always waiting to exhale. This pause should have given a little bit of relief, but we don't know for how long. So the uncertainty is causing people to feel like they're perpetually holding their breath. So another way that you could show up is just, get to know your Somali neighbors, and give them a little bit of boost. Just a hello, or a meal, or a gift card, goes a long way. My biggest fear is that, we'll feel like, hey, we don't have thousands of ICE agents, so we can kind of go back to how it was. And I don't want us to ever go back to how it was. We want to keep the sense of community, of knowing our neighbors and who's down the cul-de-sac. Did they eat this morning? Did their kids get to school today? I want to keep that sense of solidarity and community going well beyond the occupation. And those are some of the ways that you can show up, not just for the Somali community, but your neighbors in general. We should never go back to how it was.
Thank you, Malika. Ramadan Mubarak to you and your family.
Thanks, Elion.
Okay, we're gonna like stay in Minnesota, but also zoom out. I mentioned at the opening, No Kings 3 is coming up. If you've been to a No Kings rally, drop it. Oh, you know what? I'm going to pause. We have one more person to speak about Minnesota before we go to No Kings. So hold on, hold on to my setup there. I'm going to come back to the exact same thing. You maybe knew where I was going. Yeah, just to continue to understand what does ICE look like here in Minnesota. We know that they are, as Jack was speaking to, like they're in the Twin Cities, they're in the suburbs, exurbs, and in Greater Minnesota. And one of the places in Greater Minnesota they have been the most present, doing the most harm and damage, has been in Stearns County and in central Minnesota around St. Cloud, Sartell. And so on tonight is Ma Lena, who is a local organizer and leader in central Minnesota, and going to invite Ma Lena to come on and give us an update of what ICE looks like in her community and neck of the woods. Go ahead, Ma Lena. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you, and sorry for coming a little late. um, well, things are like, I don't know, it's like, big cities happen big things. And also here in St. Cloud is the big city of the area. So it was similar as the Twin Cities. Um, ice was everywhere. Um, a lot of agents came to our area, to the rural areas, to be in the like close to the meat packings, Mexican stores, knocking on doors up on the apartments, going to mobile home parks. They were everywhere in the area, like rural areas in St. Cloud. And we have a video also that came. The officers were in it's really a small town, like 2 hours away from St. Cloud, and that was in Pelican Rapids, where a lot of people work on the turkey plant, and a lot of people work on the dairy farms and vegetables like the carrots and all those. So they were like they came, they went to that place and they knock on the door. People didn't open and they were sleeping. So because they work at night, so they were sleeping and they broke, like kick up the doors and break. The person that was deported told me that they broke all the 6 doors of that house, and they take out people from inside that they were sleeping. So he was recorded, and this youth man, he said that the officer he slam on his phone and throw the phone, and they put it on him on the floor. And when he tried to put it on the floor, he hit his ear with furniture, and it was bleeding. And like it was so bad. I have that video, and he sent it to me from when he was deported to Nicaragua. So, man, is things here was all similar. Like people closed their business because everybody was afraid. Still, people afraid here in the area. So, people still doesn't come to the church. Uh, and we used to have like 200 people at our mass on Sundays. um, Everything went down to just 40 people, and now today is the first time that we got 140 people on the mass. But kids didn't go to the school for all that time. And it is very similar what happened in the cities is what happened in St. Cloud, what happened in rural areas. I don't know, you have questions or?
Well, that's a heartbreaking story you shared, and it's hard to hear. I'm sure it's hard to say it, and it's important that we remember how bad it was, and honestly how bad it is. That could happen again. 600 agents are still here, and people are still being targeted and attacked. I guess my one question to you is, yeah, is there anything similar to what I asked Malika, like as folks are thinking about showing solidarity, staying connected with people in the St. Cloud area, any recommendations for how folks who don't live in St. Cloud or Stearns County can show up and show solidarity and care for you and your neighbors?
Well, it's still like there is still a lot of families that have their loved ones in jail, and they still have like it's been almost 3 months since the first people that got arrested, they sent it right away to Texas, and people is in Texas right now. Like we have a lot of people there still. We have about 60 people in Brainerd and the jail that is with immigration. And it's 60 people, and it's not just from the area, it's from around the state that they bring there, they bring to Sherburne County, and also Brainerd. Brainerd is 1 hour away from St. Cloud. So we still have people in jails, and still people, when they get to jail, they get arrested. So still the help is still need, because people is paying 7,000, 8,000. All depends about their case. And like, for example, my sister-in-law paid 5,000 for the habeas corpus, because my brother got arrested, and he didn't have any criminal, any not even a tickets, and he got arrested, and they sent it right away to Texas, and he stayed there for 12 days, and it's the first time he got in jail. First time he got with a lot of trauma, and like he was crying, he was in tears when he got out, and still he says that he dreams that he's in jail. And my other brother that got arrested too, I have like one went out after 12 days, and the other got arrested after 2 days that the other got out. And for the other one, the other we has to pay 12,000 for him. So it was different cases and different lawyers. But when you are looking for the attorneys, is you gotta hire good attorneys, but good attorneys are charging a little more. Or I don't know. I think, I don't know. All depends on the lawyer, how are their fees, and are very expensive. So what we think is that all the support that people can give is good for the community, because we are spent it directly to our community, giving food. Right now, we are giving money for the rent and things like that. Like, yeah, those are the things that we can. Yeah, but every case is different. I have two members and my two brothers that got arrested, and other families. Imagine just mom and dad got arrested, and the kids without parents. So those are the things that they need a lot of help, and we need to support until the parents get released, or yeah, something. Like, it's not gonna be easy to recover.
No. Marlena, thank you so much for coming on and sharing so much and keeping it so real. And it's heartbreaking, and it's not done yet. And yeah, we're all here for you and your community. We're here for all of our communities across the state, and we're going to keep figuring it out together. just how we have all along. So if there's any links or things folks should be tracking for donating or things like that, please share it. Really appreciate all your leadership and everything you're doing to care for folks across the state. Be well. One important thing that we are going to do in Minnesota and across the country is come out in the tens of thousands to continue to resist this authoritarian regime, to say no kings, and to say ICE out of Minnesota, ICE out of everywhere. And so joining us tonight is Leah from Indivisible, who leads a national organization to share an update from her perspective on No Kings, and why we all should be planning to go if we're not already planning on it. So I will pass it to you, Leah.
Thanks so much. It's such an honor to be here with everyone tonight. I have spent enough time talking with members of our own network who have been on the ground and active in Minnesota across the state over the last several months to understand that people who have not been on the ground living through the this last year cannot really begin to understand what anyone on this call has gone through and what you've done. So I just approach any call where I get the mic to share my thoughts with just extreme humility and appreciation and deep appreciation for the solidarity and the heroism of the people of Minnesota, and also for all of the horrors that you have been forced to endure over the last several months. And that's sort of my jumping off point for talking about the No Kings events that are going to be happening across the country on Saturday. We have got over 3,000 events that are currently registered on our map right now. We are expecting one of the largest days of protest in American history. I think a lot of times when people look at this, they sort of see the pictures of the big crowds in city centers, and those are really great. But in a lot of ways, what we think is really exciting and impactful is just as much the smaller gatherings in places that maybe have never had a protest before, because those often form the nucleus of continued and sustained and ongoing organizing in really red, really rural areas all over the country, where we need to make sure that the people who collectively can stand up are standing up and are connecting with each other. We are looking to take a massive, powerful stand against this horrifying war with Iran, against Trump's secret police force terrorizing our communities, against the billions that are going to violence and horror abroad and at home instead of going to our healthcare and our schools and our families. When we announced No Kings in February, we were in close contact with many key Minnesota organizations, leaders, coalitions. We wanted to make sure that it was supportive and not extractive of what was happening in the state and the extraordinary significance of the fight. And one of the things we agreed on with a bunch of folks across the Minnesota side and the national side was that this was a moment when we needed to use the platform that would be afforded by a massive national No Kings to tell the story of Minnesota, to talk about the evil and the horror and the cruelty that has been inflicted by a white supremacist secret police force guided by an unaccountable would-be autocrat. And also to talk about the power and the beauty of what has risen up to meet it, about immigrant organizers, workers and unions, soccer moms and retirees guarding preschools, faith leaders across every creed, collectively coming together in an extraordinarily powerful defense of each other. That was a story that the rest of America needs to really hear and understand, because we have lived through an era where the most powerful people in the country folded and did Trump's bidding across media and tech companies and regular companies and higher education and law firms and politicians. Those folks folded in, they complied, they went along with autocracy, while regular people put everything on the line to protect each other and care for their neighbors. And that is collectively the story that we think everyone in this country needs to understand, because it is the story that we need to carry into everything that we do next, from scaling out the lessons that you all have taught us around how do you actually respond and push back on ICE on your home turf, to protecting and defending our elections in the future, because we know that these folks are going to continue to escalate, and everything in between. We see No Kings as both a powerful moment to make a statement collectively and an organizing vehicle for the ongoing work that is already happening. And so we're asking folks across the coalition, it's not just about the day, right? Plan your next event, plan how you're going to absorb people, plan how you're going to talk to folks at the event, and make sure that they are collectively getting engaged, getting into in real life relationship with a local organization, with, you know, whether it's an indivisible group or any other group collectively. The important thing is that we are moving people into ongoing and sustained action, because we need so many more people across this country to get out of the doom scrolling and into the work that you have collectively been doing over the last several months, and in many cases for much, much longer. So No Kings is going to be an extraordinary and powerful moment in Minnesota. I've heard from our folks, you know, I've heard from many folks in Minnesota who said some version of, "That's very nice of you, but we don't like talking about ourselves very much." And you know, we've been like, yes, we hear that, and also we think it's important to talk about what has happened here. So we're going to try and balance that in the messaging, but it is going to be a moment in which we want to tell the story of what has happened here on a national stage. We want to center the leaders and the voices who have been leading that fight here in Minnesota. And we think it's an opportunity for, you know, people who, however you took part, we hope that it is an experience that makes you feel seen and celebrated for your courage, your sacrifice, your solidarity. That I think is the big thing. We will have, as I said, the flagship in St. Paul. There will also be events all over Minnesota and indeed all over the country. So whether you are planning one yourself or whether you are planning to attend, we hope to see you there. And most importantly, we really hope that this is additive and supportive to the ongoing work that we know is happening.
Thanks, Leah. Really big appreciation for all your leadership, all of Indivisible's leadership. When I look around the landscape from the beginning, you all have been so clear about holding down this anchor of mass mobilizing against this regime, which is such a critical component of what needs to happen to get to the other side and care for our folks. And I would be remiss to say Minnesota organizers are trying to get 200,000 people in the streets in St. Paul. They claim, and I trust them, that would be the biggest mobilization probably in Minnesota's history. And it's going to be like totally echoed across the state. So be a part of that history. Show up. Yeah, it's going to be a powerful day, and there's going to be really good sound too. So if you're one of those people that's like, I can never hear the stage, you will hear the stage, I'm pretty sure this time.
We love
All
that.
right. Cool. Okay, we are going to close our time together this evening, both with that the spirit of action and continuing to move in the face of horror and hard things, and also with song. And so I'm gonna pass it back to Splash to close us out. Thanks y'all for being here this evening.
Hello, hello. Sorry, I'm just checking my tuning real quick. Alright, we're good. So I'm going to play a couple more songs for you. This is another one from my album that you can find on the links that they were shared. And then I'm going to do one from an upcoming album. So follow me on Instagram at that link tree, or sign up for my mailing list if you want to be aware of updates around that. I set off down the stream, came to see what I mean. If my whole life is a dream, then who am I? So I pondered all I see as I grew roots like a tree, and I wandered aimlessly through space and time. So carry me down this stream, my whole life but a dream. The only things I really mean are the things we do in the rose garden. Yeah, those things that we do in the rose garden. I set off down a path that would make most people laugh, but I knew in my heart it's the way. Now I know it's the truth that I've dreamt since my youth. This world is magical proof. Just follow me as I drift down this stream. My whole life but a dream. The only things that seem real to me are the things we do in the rose garden. Yeah, those things that we do in the rose garden. Now I sit on my throne, feeling less than alone, and at home in my heart I am free. These mysterious things have me spreading my wings. I can see now the way that time flows. So carry me down this stream, my whole life but a dream. Could it be that all we see spring from the things we do in the rose garden, and the dreams that we drew in the rose garden, and the selves we slew in the rose garden? Yeah, those things that we do in the rose garden. Thanks, y'all. Got one more song. Thanks for sticking around, those of you who did. Hope to see you out at the No Kings protests, and maybe even at a live show sometime. This is called Traveler's Blessing. It's going to be off an EP that I will be releasing shortly. May the road rise up to meet you. May your travels all be sweet. May you leave your cares behind you like the dust beneath your feet. Wheresoever your heart takes you as you march off to its beat, may the road rise up to meet you. May your travels all be sweet. May the road rise up to meet you. May your travels all be sweet. May you leave your cares behind you like the dust beneath your feet. Wheresoever your heart takes you as you march off to its beat, may the road rise up to meet you. May your travels all be sweet. Though I'll miss you on the morrow, when I wake to find you gone, I will not be filled with sorrow, for I know we'll meet anon. When I finally cross that valley where we're all eventually drawn, then I know you'll be there waiting. You were never really gone. I will not hurry, since I know it's not my time. And to shrug off life's great miracle would surely be a crime. I'll remain here with my memories, and I'll mark the clock tower's chime as my hopeful wishes for you I commemorate in rhyme. May the road rise up to meet you, may your travels all be sweet, may you leave your cares behind you like the dust beneath your feet. Wheresoever your heart takes you as you march off to its beat, may the road rise up to meet you, may your travels all be sweet. May the road rise up to meet you, may your travels all be sweet. Thanks, y'all. It's yeah, a little strange playing to people I can't see or hear, so I appreciate the reactions and the comments in the chat. Thanks so much, guys. I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Recording